Hello everyone, my name is Solomon Eloa and this is my Social Work 302 Research and Context assignment, the first part. I chose a topic that was born out of my experience with my practicum learning this semester. Its impact on stigma related to STBBIs among the ACB community members. Now, why did I pick this topic? It was simply because last week Friday, we were told to actually um, go into the community with my practicum director, my supervisor, to go and receive HIV test kits from the Public Health of Canada. They had brought in a shipment and they were supposed to be distributed in two batches. Apparently, the first batch was stipulated to be distributed among a certain demographic. I think it was slated for January 27th, which is tomorrow. And the second batch was for ACB community members, and that was slated for January 30th. So I realized that my supervisor has always felt that ACB members were always marginalized. And I asked her, why do you always feel this way? Is it because you are also an ACB community members, or is it just a bias that you feel out of an anti-oppressive perspective? And she made me mention that look at today, they received the shipments from Public Health of Canada, and the organizing agency is putting non-ACB community members first, which basically means by the time we go there on Monday next week, whatever is left is what ACB community members would get, which is a form of discrimination or stigmatization. And then I was like, okay, well, since HIV is a public health issue, I would want to look at the stigmas that are involved with HIV, AIDS, or not just focus there, just look at all STBBIs in full. So I spoke to a few community members, and the community members I picked were ACB community members simply because obviously I'm an ACB community member. I identify as one of them, and I want to understand if this stigmatization, discrimination is something that they felt, or if it's just a bias from my supervisor because she's into anti-oppressive practice. According to the Canadian Public Health Association, I read that there are different types of stigma, and some of the stigmas that that um, one may experience is anticipated stigma, enacted stigma, perceived stigma, or internalized stigma. And from what I read and from what I could experience with my supervisor, I noticed that she was either internalizing the stigma or probably anticipating the stigma, because I had not seen an overt stigmatization from anyone towards her, but then she had this perceived or perception that they were marginalized HIV/AIDS patients by that distribution scheme. It might be a technicality error, it might be intentional, but then because she had mentioned it at first, I actually wanted to see the impact of those stigmas. So the importance of what I want to do would actually be from the fact that I know that from previous interactions with community members, and coming from the social location where I identify as, there are times when discrimination doesn't come from a different race, it comes from within ourselves. For example, looking at cases like HIV/AIDS, most people would not want to share or disclose just simply because they would get that prejudgment. I'm originally from Nigeria and we are pretty traditional. Most of the stigmatization or discrimination against STBBIs would come from the um, the lack of information that many people have, and then the unconscious bias that they've had over HIV. According to the Community-Based Research Center, I saw an article that stated that HIV/AIDS related deaths are far less than um, other STBBI related deaths. But then when you tell somebody that, oh, I'm HIV positive, the first thing they do is to distance themselves from you, and then the discrimination goes away, runs along rather. So that discrimination and that perceived, that anticipated segregation or stigmatization is what makes people actually just jump into the anti-oppressive perspective when speaking about their plight. So I intend to actually look at it from a holistic perspective. I do not want to have any sort of bias, even though I have recognized that my supervisor may be biased, and I would want to also understand over the course of doing this research, because I would want to speak to service users, and I would also want to speak to service providers um, in gathering information as to how they perceive stigma and how it affects them, their conception of what stigma is, if they have felt any stigma over time, if the stigma is as a result of, if this perceived stigma is as a result of other oppressions they might have experienced within the communities as ACB members. Um, Something that has contributed to my understanding of this topic is solely my practical experience. I have been really involved with what the project has been all about. I had attended conferences, I had taken a few trainings on HIV. I know more than I used to know. And part of what I would also do to better myself, or be more involved in this research topic, is to actually take a few trainings. For example, the National Collaboration Center for Determinants of Health, they have a training on, I think it's the 4th of February, and it's for non-HIV carriers to actually come and understand how HIV is being managed, the effects of the antiretroviral drugs, and how your viral load can go down to undetectable and untransmittable. This is something that I think I had little knowledge on, but I'm really excited to actually go through that training, learn, and then add it into my practice. So I'm hoping that by the time I'm doing my second post or my second assignment, I would have better results from my research and the studies that I had carried out, and I would share that. I think on a final note, I would want to speak about what I stand to take out of this. I actually want to understand the concept of research. I want to understand how I will take paradigms and convert them into theory, because I know one of the required readings we were asked to do, I think in Module 1, Thomas Kuhn had mentioned that there's a big difference between paradigms and theories. Paradigms are basically scientific assumptions, but then they are guidance towards carrying out research that will then produce facts, which becomes theory. So I want to actually look at that assumptions of this perceived stigmatization, carry out my research, speak to the community members from both service users and service delivery agents, speak to training people with more wealth of knowledge, school instructors, research centers, look at articles, and then come up with an informed research based on the studies that I have carried out. Well, I hope you enjoyed my video, and if you have any question, please leave it in the comments and I would answer them as much as I can. I'm excited for the next part of this video. Thank you so much and have a nice day. Bye.